Hello and welcome back to Only Analog. Today we're going to be taking a look at Harman Technology's latest offering, Phoenix II. As we go through today's video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how I feel about the film on my very first hands-on experience with this film and based on my experience alone. So I do feel like a little bit of a fraud as I didn't actually shoot this Phoenix film or the first generation of this film. I did purchase some knowing that obviously Harman Technologies were going to improve and develop this film as they went on. But after seeing some of the results, it wasn't really something that I felt was going to fit in with the projects and the shoots that I was working on at the time. After seeing some of the image samples from Phoenix II, I had to give this film a try for myself. So let's dive straight into it today, and I really hope you enjoy. So the first thing I want to talk to you about today is the developing and scanning. So I developed all of these rolls at home using the Bellini C41 kit. These are essentially mini lab grade chemicals provided by Bellini, which I purchased from Nixon Tricks. If you want to see a little bit more about how I develop my film at home, you can click the link just in this top corner here. But let's talk about the scanning real quick. So the first thing I want to bring up is I scan these at complete basic reset settings. I didn't use any of the auto color or auto brightness on the scanner at all. The film base is so purple on this Phoenix II film that my scanner really struggled to find any consistency when scanning the film. So I went in and increased and decreased anything that I think the film needed, but as far as color corrections go, I didn't really touch anything at all. I tried to leave it as out of the scanner as possible. So let's talk about some of the characteristics of Phoenix II. Harman Technology promise that there is better colour and contrast and also improved sharpness and grain. However, I found the results to still be very prominent in yellows. A lot of the compositions that you'll see today as we work through the video are still very yellow with some green in there. And it still does have that Phoenix look. There's still quite a lot of red and pink in the highlights, quite, more prominently in the sky than anything else. But you'll see what I mean in a little bit more detail as we move through today's video. The range between the highlights and shadows also look a lot better when compared to Phoenix 1. There's not a complete loss of shadow detail, there's still quite a lot of detail in the highlights as well. And then finally, let's talk about grain and sharpness. So I feel like the sharpness has definitely improved. Obviously I haven't shot the first generation myself, but based on what I've seen, the sharpness and detail does look a lot better. There is still quite a substantial amount of grain in some of my photos, which I don't mind. I'm not usually a huge fan of a lot of grain in colour film, but I feel like a subtle amount can add a lot of character to the end result.
Love a shopping trolley.
So with Harman obviously continuing to improve and develop this film, I do definitely think it's one to try, and I think eventually it's going to become a very strong contender in the colour market. It's still somewhat budget friendly, so the 120 roll coming in at £11 and the 35mm roll at £13, which isn't too bad. And of course it's always welcomed when a company is looking to bring new products to the colour film market. I'm really glad I went out to shoot this film, and I for one am really excited to see where Harman can go with this.
Welcome back. So it's been a little while since I shot that first roll of Phoenix II. Since going out in Hastings and shooting them first initial rolls, the weather has just been absolutely terrible, and I know by this point I'm probably very, very late to the party on the Phoenix II hype. But with everything going on recently, I've been absolutely swamped at work. I haven't really been able to get out and do much photography, so I finished work early today, and I've decided to come back out and finish the last couple of rolls that I've got. So I'm back once again at a very familiar location. I'm back down at Fairfield Church, also known as Thomas à Becket's Church in the Marsh. It's currently 6:30. I've got about an hour of sunlight left. And I've come down here because I've wanted to shoot this church at sunset/dusk for quite a long time. So I've got the shutter release cable with me. Not the best evening for a sunset, I don't think, but we're going to try our best. We're going to have a little scope about, see what I can line up and wait for that sun to go down a little bit. So yeah, we've got about, I think probably 3 shots left on the second roll of 120. I think I've still got a few shots left on the 35mm, and I've got a spare roll of 120 if I need it. So hopefully Phoenix II holds out in that low light. Light's getting pretty low now, but I didn't really have time to film it, but an incredible moment just happened. It was all the birds, I think they're swallows, from looking at them. They're either swallows or house martins, I can't quite tell, but yeah, they all sort of flooded down all of a sudden, just across the river here. They were all catching the insects and there was loads of them. Quickly took a few snaps, didn't really have time to meter or anything, so hopefully a couple of them come out, because that was really, really nice. It was beautifully framed with the reeds here and the church in the background, so that was a really nice moment. You know, even if the rest of the evening's a bust, it was probably worth coming down just for that, so yeah.
So just to wrap things up, obviously I did struggle with the scanning side of things with this film. I did find myself getting a little frustrated with the really strong yellows and some of the pinks in the highlights. But after taking a little bit of time away from these shots, and coming back to them to edit and obviously prepare them for this video, I do actually really like the aesthetic that saturated yellow provides. So as I said earlier, obviously my opinion would be based just on my results. But having said that, I have had a little look around, and there's a lot of photographers that have reported that same yellowing in their shots. But there's also a lot that haven't. So, you know, whether these photographers are going in and editing their shots slightly differently, obviously taking a lot of the yellow out, could be one of the reasons. It also could be because of different scanning methods. So I'm obviously running my Epson scanner, whereas a lot of photographers could be using a Noritsu or a DSLR setup, which could give obviously a wide range of different colour results. But you know, I like to be honest with you guys. I want to give you the sort of results that I'm seeing, so you can get a better idea of Phoenix before you shoot it, or you may already have and obviously have experienced this for yourself. But yeah, the yellowing is definitely a strong characteristic that I found across all of my rolls. Obviously I shot at slightly different ISOs as well and found the same throughout. So it's not a bad characteristic, but you know, just something I thought was worth mentioning. So obviously we've got a slightly mixed bag of results today. I feel even though I overexposed some of my evening shots, they still came out a bit underexposed. It also doesn't look like it in the footage, but it was actually very dark, which in turn obviously created a lot of grain and a loss of shadow detail. But in the harsher and brighter conditions, it performed pretty well. Again, very strong in the yellows, but there's still some nice colours in there, and in my opinion makes for a unique look that still retains that experimental feel. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. It's a pretty interesting one for me, obviously shooting Phoenix for the first time. I feel like my results are slightly different probably to what you've seen so far. I don't think it's anything on the developing side of things, but you know, if you've shot a roll of this and you found the exact same, you know, saturated yellows and pinks, do let me know in the comments below. But as I said, I'm really excited to see where Harman can go with this. Obviously it's only hopefully going to progress from here. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do next, whether that's something with Phoenix or something else. And as I said, I did really enjoy some of my results. You know, I don't think any of these shots are absolute showstoppers, but there are some in there that I really enjoyed. And that strong yellow really leaned into that aesthetic that I kind of like. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed. Please do consider hitting the subscribe button. It's the best way you can support us on this venture. Please do drop a like and a comment as well, and I'll see you very soon on the next one. Stay safe, happy shooting, peace.